Hello and welcome to this bonus episode of This Film Is Lit podcast where we talk about movies that are based on books, but not this time because this is not a normal episode. We're talking about a movie that's out in theaters. Patrons, thank you if you're here as a patron. This may also be released to the wider audience. There's a little bit of a tease, a little bit of a sneak peek of what you get when you are a patron. But all of our lovely patrons, you're way better than the rest of the people who are listening to this right now. Just know that about yourself. You're better than them. Appreciate that. You're all extra special. But yeah, so if you're listening to this in the normal feed, this would normally be what we'd be releasing to our patrons. But I decided to give a little sneak peek, little tease, potentially.
An amuse-bouche.
An amuse-bouche. And if I decided not to release it to patrons, then... Or not to release it to everybody, then patrons, just for you. It's your beautiful ears. This is an amuse-bouche just for you. Well, this is the main course for you. And I don't know, the metaphor got lost in this.
I guess it would be an amuse, whatever the French word for ears is. I don't remember.
Oh,
I took like
oof?
6 years of
No.
French.
Is
I don't
oof?
remember.
That's egg. I think that's egg.
That's egg, yeah. We're really good at this.
Yeah, I took a couple of years of French. Anyways, we saw Knives Out. So yeah, we're going to talk about it because I got a lot of things that I want to talk about this movie.
I'm Detective Lieutenant Elliott, and this is Trooper Wagner.
We just want to ask a few questions.
We understand the night of his demise, the family had gathered to celebrate your father's 85th birthday. How was it, by the way?
The party? Pre my dad's death? Oh, it was great.
We just got back from theaters. We just saw it the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, 2019. We're going to do spoiler-free for the first bit. We'll let you know when we're going to get the spoilers, but we'll be spoiler-free for maybe the first half. I don't know. I can't break it down exactly, but when we get the spoilers, we'll be like, hey, spoilers are coming, so if you haven't seen the film, you can turn it off then. Until you do see the film, and then come back and listen to it because we got lots to say. But spoiler free for the first little bit here. And Katie, I'm gonna just let you go first. What did you think of this film? What do you think of Knives Out?
I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed it.
I loved it.
Yeah,
I absolutely loved it. My recommendation is go see this film 100%. If you were on the fence. I wasn't on the fence. I really wanted to see it. I like Rian Johnson as a director and a writer. I liked The Last Jedi. Come at me. But so I really like Rian Johnson as a writer and director. And I also just I like a good fun murder mystery, which is, I mean, that's not spoiling anything to say this is a murder. That's what the trailers obviously make it out to be. And this is a very fun murder mystery. For me, this is probably a 10 out of 10 film. I say that only hesitantly in the sense that I would have to see it again to know for sure, just to see if there was anything that didn't quite work, or if there was... On my first viewing, I'm like, this is a 10 out of 10. I could potentially peg it down a point to like a 9, depending on a second viewing of if everything holds up as well. I think it will. Just based on my initial impression, but you never know. But first viewing, I would go 10 out of 10. What would you?
I don't know. I would go 10 out of 10.
Yeah, straight up, just a dynamite movie. And now we're gonna go start seeing more movies again in theaters. We haven't been in a long time, so it's easy for me to say this is the best movie I've seen this year because I have not seen very many movies this year. Yeah.
And I think even just after a first viewing, a 10 out of 10 is not even really unwarranted, because I think if it were less well written, we would be able to have... I think we would have already spied at least some small things that didn't add up. Yeah.
I think my thing that was getting me that like maybe it would go down is that there was a little bit in the first act that was intentionally sort of slow burn, and it's actually a positive that I have later, but it's a little bit slow burn, and it's obviously slow burn on purpose in like the first act, but that doesn't I still felt a little slow to me in the first act. Like in my viewing experience, I was like, okay, we can move on from this format, and we'll talk about what that format is. I still think it's really effective filmmaking, and I think that going back and seeing it a second time and what's going on there would make it even more effective, which would reinforce my 10 out of 10. But there was a moment in the first act where I was like, okay, I'm a little tired of this format. And again, we'll talk about what that format is. I think I have it in the non-spoilers because it's not really a spoiler. But other than that, I had no criticisms of the film. Like, literally none. Like, literally zero criticisms of the film that I could think of.
I had, like, one small one.
What was is it spoiler-free? Or is it spoiler? We can talk about it in the spoilers.
It's
just
not
remember.
A spoiler for the plot.
Okay. Well, I don't know what that means. Is it spoilery at all? Hold on. Pause Brian in the recording. Katie, what is it?
I didn't like Daniel Craig's accent. Is that a spoiler?
No, that's not a spoiler. That's not a spoiler. I'm going to leave that part in. I disagree wholeheartedly.
I just...
She said she didn't like Daniel Craig's accent.
I didn't really like his accent. I felt like... And maybe it was because I know that he does not have a foghorn leghorn Kentucky Fried Chicken accent. Like, I don't think that he did a bad job with it. Like, I think he did an okay job with the accent. But to me, especially at first, it was a little bit distracting because, like, I knew in my mind and heart and soul that he did not have that accent.
I will say this: I may have been helped slightly by knowing he going in, which I'd only seen like one trailer. I hadn't watched a lot of the promo material or stuff, but I knew from a review or from something going in that he was doing a very strong Southern accent.
I did not know that.
So I knew that going in, so I was prepared for it, and I just was ready, and I buckled up, and I was there for it. I loved every moment of it. I thought he crushed it. And that actually brings me to my second point, is that I thought the performances were all incredible. Like, literally everybody was just fantastic. I think the two strongest are Ana de Armas, I don't know how to pronounce her name, Ana de Armas, and Daniel Craig. Despite his accent, I think even if you find his accent distracting, I still think his performance is just...
Yeah, and I mean, that was the main thing for me. Like I said, I don't think he did a bad job with the accent. I just found it distracting, and mostly at the beginning, like, I got used to it. So I think there's something to be said for that.
I think there really is. Yeah, I think there really is, because, like, even if you're... Obviously, everybody knows who Daniel Craig is. He's James Bond. But after the first few minutes, he did it such a good job that he was just that character to me, and it fell into it so well. And I think it is such a good accent that I was on board for it. And his performance and his character, the writing for his character is so interesting and so well done that him and Marta, the main character, they're like the two main characters essentially. And they're the two leads, and they're both just outstanding. But everybody else does an incredible job. Like, there's not a single weak link that I can even think of in the whole film in terms of like a performance. I mean, there are people that have a lot less to do or whatever, but everybody nails exactly what they're going for. I mean, like, even little, very tiny bit parts that are just barely there. Like, Ricky Lindholm plays the wife of Michael Shannon's character, Walt. And she's the blonde who's not the hippie one, but the waspy one. The waspy one. Yeah. Who's only in like a couple scenes, but she's Ricky Lindholm. She's a comedian. She's from Simon or Garfunkel and Oates is like a musical comedy duo. But she's also an actress. She's in a bunch of stuff. She's really great. But she has only in a few scenes, but she, like, even her little bit part, she does such a great job of capturing that like waspy wife role. Every performance is fantastic. Moving on, the script I thought is as like watertight as you can write something like this. I would think. I mean, I'm always blown away by a script like this where there's so many intricacies and details. And I don't know how you write
mystery, it. I couldn't even begin to fathom how you write a murder mystery.
I don't get it. It's literally magic to me.
Like it's just puzzle pieces.
It's magic. It's straight up like he has the Force and like he sees the code in the Matrix, or who knows how many people helped on the script, but like he's billed as the writer, like Rian Johnson is billed as writer director. So again, who knows who helped or whatever. But
it is crazy because you have to be able to see the parts and also step back and see the whole thing and also see it the way that other people are going to see it. And I just don't know how. I don't
know how you do that. And then within all of those puzzle pieces to write these incredibly compelling characters at the same time is just mind blowing.
And also like puzzle pieces that seem like they're going to fit, but then they don't fit.
Yeah, I was texting one of our friends about this. She's really into Kristen, if you're listening. She's really in to murder mysteries and that sort of thing. She loves escape rooms. She loves murder mysteries, all that kind of stuff. And I texted her, I was like, you have to go see this movie. Like, you just absolutely have to go see this movie because it's just, it's probably, and I can't think of this is a pretty specific genre piece. Like, there's not a ton of, like, murder mystery movies. Like Murder on the Orient Express, but that's like a remake for, that came out like...
There's Clue.
I mean, there are more. It's not like there aren't, but like the fun murder mystery is like a pretty niche thing, and this is probably the best one I've ever seen, I think. Clue's a lot of fun, but it's more fun than it is like serious movie.
Yeah.
And this is like slightly more serious movie than it is fun, while still being a lot of fun. It's great. As what I mentioned earlier is that the pacing in the first act with the sort of, because so what they do, and this isn't really a spoiler, is that there's the whole first act is almost entirely like an interview, like detective interview setup, and it's very sort of slow pacing, and we're staying in the same room. We're getting some like flashback and stuff, but it's paced very methodically, and I found myself getting a little like, let's move, like I said earlier, a little like, okay, can we move on? Are we good? Because I guess I was worried, like, are we going to stay in this, do this the whole film?
Yeah.
Because I didn't know. Yeah. I assumed we wouldn't, but I wasn't sure, and we don't, so I'm like, cool, A+ stuff. But I was a little worried about that, but what I do love about that is that it starts slow, and then it keeps building in tempo, and it keeps building as the mystery, like, unravels. And then it reaches this giant, like, crazy, explosive conclusion. And, like, the other thing is that I had inklings of where I thought this was going. But I was right about, like, slight elements of it. But I did not remotely, like, figure it out.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, I did not remotely figure it out. But I don't know if anybody could, like, figure out the whole thing from, like, watching it the first time. But you can definitely, it at least gives you enough pieces that you're like questioning. You're like, oh, I don't know about this. This feels a little strange. Like, you know what I mean? To where you're not just buying everything hook, line, and sinker, and then you're like, get the rug pulled out from under you, which I thought was cool. So yeah, I love that a lot. Moving on to the direction, still Rian Johnson. I thought it was really restrained, which I thought really kind of fit the genre because it is like a murder mystery. And I thought the thing that was worked really well about the direction is that there's like a lot of lingering close-ups, which is really important in this genre to help let the performances play out so that you can like see the glimpses into the characters as they're talking, because it's that thing of like, are they telling the truth?
Yeah.
Are they lying? And when you linger on those just like locked down close-ups, you get to focus purely on the performance that the actors and actresses are giving. And I think that really, sells. It really just lets the actors shine, and it really increases like it draws you in because you're like trying to figure it out. And you're trying to catch little things in their performances, and I just love that about it. But at the same time, he wasn't afraid to move the camera in kind of interesting or creative ways when the moment called for it. There's like one scene in particular where some chaos going on where it's really striking because a lot of the film has been very locked down, close-ups and like not a lot of movement with the camera, and then something happens and all of a sudden we're like a handheld camera shot that's like very chaotic and moving around, and it's like, whoa. Yeah. And it's things like that I thought were like really great decisions and really well done. So without getting into spoilers, we're gonna talk about more about this in the spoilers. But I thought the whole script had like a really deft hand in delivering a striking and timely political allegory without it feeling ham-fisted. Mm-hmm. Like, that was maybe my favorite thing about the movie. Yeah. Overall, was that it's not subtle. Like, the political allegory in this film is not subtle.
No.
But at the same time,
it also kind of is.
It is, which is really interesting because I could see some portion of the audience like leaving the theater without feeling they had just watched like an overtly political story. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like they may not realize, oh, this was like a political allegory, but make no mistakes, it absolutely is, and it's not subtle. But at the same, like, it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, if you're just going in and like, I'm trying to put on those blinders, I'm going to wear my all art is political, you're just bad at media analysis shirt and be like, I think there's a not insignificant portion of people who would watch this movie.
I'm sure that a not insignificant portion of the people that were in the theater with us tonight,
that's what I mean. Yeah,
left this movie completely unaware that they had just seen a political allegory.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And because we live in a fairly conservative town, staunchly conservative,
small Midwestern town.
Yeah, it's like 80-20. It's
a little town. It's a quiet village.
80-20 red or something like that, if not more. I don't even know. It's probably more than that. But yeah, I like you said, I wouldn't be surprised if a fair amount of people left the theater and didn't feel like they had just been preached to, and I love that.
Or like maybe they were able to pick up on hints of it here and there, but not the entire picture.
Yeah, which is really, really interesting. I love that it's unabashedly political, but super deft in handling it. Mm-hmm. Also, on first viewing, I didn't notice sort of the normal pitfalls that tend to happen when like quote unquote well-intentioned liberal Hollywood writes like a political allegory that somehow still manages to be problematic. And this Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs isn't like a political allegory, but like it's like well-intentioned and like, you know, they're like liberal Hollywood writing this story and then still comes out like like, you know, and again, give it 10 years, who knows, maybe. Mm-hmm. But in the moment it felt very well done, especially, you know, it felt like it just felt like it did a really good job of delivering a political message in a way that didn't so like something like The Green Book, which I haven't seen, but from all accounts and purpose, or what the fuck is the phrase I'm looking for,
intents and purposes,
no, by all accounts, I combined by all accounts with for all intents and purposes somehow. By all accounts is well-meaning, but like very problematic. Yeah. And this movie didn't strike me that way. Mm-hmm. It seemed pretty woke, let's say, for lack of a better word. Final thing that I want to discuss in the non-spoiler section before we get to spoilers is that this may be this is a big statement. This is a real, you ready for the bombshell? And again, just got out of the theater, riding that high. And it's even more like, because it's what, so this may be my last favorite shot of a film ever. Yeah. It's up there.
Yeah. It's a great last shot.
It's a great last shot. And if you want to know more, we're going to get to it in the spoilers. It's going to be our first spoiler discussion. I put it there just so we don't leave you hanging too long. It's legitimately... Again, I don't know. I don't remember every last shot of every movie I've ever seen. But, oh my goodness. We both lost it in the theaters, laughing. I had tears in my eyes. Laughing, just so many emotions in one shot, and we're gonna get into it a little more just in 5 seconds, but holy cow, that last shot, that's all I'm gonna say. It's so good, and it's incredible. So any other things you want to talk about before we get to spoilers, Katie? Any last words on Knives Out for the people who haven't seen it yet?
Go see it.
Go see it. Absolutely go see it. It's incredible. It's fantastic. Go
Especially like if you need to get away from your family this holiday weekend.
I have that note.
This is the perfect antidote.
Yes, because this isn't a spoiler. This is the perfect Thanksgiving film. It's the perfect. They released it at the perfect time.
Yeah,
it's the perfect Thanksgiving film, and it's funny because you don't really think it would be, but I mean, it's all about family and like conflicts within families and that sort of thing, while absolutely being nothing about family at the same time. It was really interesting. But yeah, it's so the perfect.
If you can slip away, it just gets you to the movie theater.
If you're the left leaning one in your family and you need a little reprieve, go check out Knives Out. It will do you good. That's all we'll say about that. All right, we're gonna get to spoilers.
I suspect foul play. I have eliminated no suspects.
I'm gonna live.
It's a twisted web. We are not finished untangling it, not yet.
What is this? CSI KFC?
So that last shot, though.
That last shot.
And I wrote this phrase, and it's whatever and it's an oxymoron.
Yeah.
But the overt subtlety of that last shot. I mean, the whole last scene, but specifically the last shot. So the movie opens, and I don't know if it's the first shot in the movie, but it's one of the first shots.
First shots is a coffee mug.
Is a coffee mug. It's a character, and I think it's.
I'm pretty sure it's the housekeeper.
Is it?
Is it the housekeeper, Fran?
It may be Fran. I thought maybe it was what's her name from Halloween. The white-haired I got notes. Jamie Lee Curtis. I thought it might have been Jamie Lee Curtis who picked it up, but it might be Fran. Somebody grabs it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. But there's a coffee mug that says, "This is my house."
It says, "My house,
my rules, my coffee." Right.
It's like one of those kitschy,
kitschy little mug.
Yeah.
And it's the first shot, or one of the first shots in the movie. Throwaway shot. You don't even think anything about it. It's just whatever. It's just a coffee mug in this house. The other thing I love, though, about it is that it dates the movie. That was the first thing I noticed, too, because I honestly didn't know what time period this movie took place. But as soon as you see that coffee mug, you're like, oh, it's at least post 2010 or post 2000. Like, it's a very clearly like post 2000 mug. So it's like a modern time period. But that's like the first shot of the movie. And the last shot, the whole thing plays out great. Everybody turns around and looks, and then we see Marta standing up on the balcony. I mean, it's film language 101.
Yeah.
Putting her above all of these people as they stare up at her.
And she is essentially just inherited everything out from under this family.
Yeah. Not by like conniving or anything, just by being a good person.
Just because she was a good person.
She was a good person. But so there's the whole last scene's great, but then it cuts in, and the final shot of the film it's a close up on her face, a super tight close up on her face, and she brings the coffee mug up and sips out of it, my favorite thing about it is that you could do it. She could be holding it by the handle, and it could be very overt, like you could see the words really easy. But she's holding the whole mug, and you can just barely see the words through her fingers. My house, my rules, my coffee. And it's just, and she's not smug. She just is taking a sip of the coffee, and you can barely see it. And that's the overt subtlety that I'm talking about, is if you, a lesser hand in this moment would have made it more overt.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's already, again, it's not, it's the overt subtlety of it we both lost it. There were other people laughing, but we both lost it. I had tears in my eyes. And it's just the best final shot of a film that I can remember. It's fantastic. I love it so much. Yeah, it's just great. So good. We mentioned earlier, but I love that I had no idea what the reveal was going to be. Like,
no.
What I did have a feeling was that Chris Evans was bad news.
Yes.
Like, I got that vibe.
He had the fuckboy bad news vibe.
100%. And 100% he had the fuckboy vibe, and I was like, okay, there's some. He's something's
not
going
on the up and up.
But then they kind of tease you with like thinking you like what it is that just that because he says to her like he seems like he's on her side, and then he's like, and then I just want my cut. So you're like, oh, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So like you're like, oh, it's just that like he just wants his cut, but like that's like they're kind of try to like
right. They kind of like, oh, he just wants to screw the rest of his family out of it, and then he gets his cut.
They give you a crumb.
That's what he wants.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. They throw you a crumb to try to toss you off the scent. That he's
like, the big bad. I love that. Because I super did not see it coming at all that he had connived all these things. Because I was waiting. I was like, there's gonna be some big reveal. There has to be. Like this movie is nothing if not the
nothing is what it seems.
The quintessential murder mystery. You can't have it be like what it seems to be. Mm-mm. Like there has to be something going on. I thought what they were setting up was it was going to be this thing where like she killed, like she accidentally poisoned him or accidentally gave him too much morphine, but somebody had already poisoned him, or somebody had then slit his throat so that she feels guilty and all these things are going on. Because that's like a classic morality like dilemma thing of like who's guilty if there's three people and there's a guy standing on the edge of a cliff and he's got a rope tied around his neck, and then one person force feeds him poison, another person pushes him off the cliff, and then as he's falling, somebody shoots him. So, like, they all killed, you know what I mean? Like, that's like and I was wondering if maybe it was going to be something like that, where, like, she wasn't really because it was an accident, and that somebody else, like, actually intended. But I loved where, because that it didn't go that direction. I love that like, what I thought was kind of a clever, like, thing wasn't what was going on. And I really loved where it went, because it was completely unexpected with the switching of the drugs and her actually not making a mistake because she's actually really competent and knows that this is what this drug looks like versus this drug. All of that stuff was just so good. I loved it.
Now, I did think when we initially see her flashback and we find out that she, at the time, believes that she switched the drugs. Yeah. I did think to myself, it's been a few minutes. Wouldn't he be showing
I thought that too.
Symptoms?
And I loved it. I love that because I thought the same thing. I was
but then I was like, it's a movie. I don't really know how much time is supposed to have passed.
I know. Well, because he's giving a countdown at the same time. But then I agree. I felt the same thing. I was like, I feel like he'd be showing at least some symptoms by now. Yeah. Like, because she says specifically, like, after 5 minutes, you show like symptoms,
sweating and
blah blah blah, and then at 10 minutes you're dead. And he says at one point we have 6 minutes, but it felt like it had been longer than that. Yeah. And there's no way he would know for sure. He's just like ballparking it. So I agree. I felt the same thing, and I love that because I know that like,
and it is kind of taking advantage of
movie
viewer,
making.
Of the movie making process where you kind of. You're willing to, as a viewer, to like fudge the time. Yeah,
it's so brilliant. There's so many things, like little things like that in this film that are so brilliant, and it's just like I wonder how long he was working, him/them, whoever was working on the screenplay were working on it, because those kind of things are just. It's like, those details are just freaking ridiculous. We talked about it being a great, perfect Thanksgiving release. The thing that really struck out, and this is a bit of a spoiler, is the political discussion at his birthday party between all of them, and then what's his name? I think it's Don Johnson is the actor. Ropes in Marta, and say you came here the right way. I mean, because again, it takes place current day. This takes place 2019. Mm-hmm. And they're talking about Trump, and I mean, like Toni Collette's character mentions red hats and blah blah blah. Like, it's again not subtle. But it also, I love too that it plays because I was worried at times. I wasn't worried because I know roughly Ryan Johnson's political beliefs, and like I know that he wasn't gonna like both sides it. But he does a little bit in a very like woke way, in the sense that like Toni Collette's character is like kind of your token rich white liberal.
Yeah.
Who's like berating, talking about kids in cage, and she's making good points at times, but at the same time she's more worried about her own wealth and her own situation and that sort of thing. And Meg, being her daughter, is also...
she's kind of, like, only vaguely informed.
Yes, vaguely informed, which, I can identify with. It's tough to stay informed with everything. But, yeah. But I'm aware that I'm not super informed, and I don't go spouting off about all these things. But, yeah, I loved that whole... the political discussion. I was like, oh, this is, again, like we said, Thanksgiving. This is... Yeah. Oof.
And this is kind of like an obvious thing, but throughout the course of the movie, I loved that none of these affluent white family members actually knew where Marta was from.
Yeah, none of them.
Like, they're like, oh, she's from Ecuador. Oh, her family's from Guatemala. Oh, the Brazilian healthcare worker. Yeah. None of them freaking knew.
No, none of them knew. Only whatever, what was his name? The main guy? Harlan. Only he knew. Yeah, I thought that was really good. There's one of my favorite little subtle moments in the entire freaking movie. And I laughed, and nobody else in the theater laughed. Is during that argument at dinner, or at the birthday party after, and I'm trying to remember his name now. Richard. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Richard, who's Don Johnson, who's the Chris Evans' dad.
Yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis's husband.
Yeah. He's the one who calls Marta over to get her opinion, and because he's the one ranting about illegal immigrants and whatnot. And my favorite thing in that moment, and I'm assuming you noticed this, but he's doing this whole discussion, and it's just in the corner of the camera. He's holding his plate out to her.
Yes.
And she does take it eventually.
Yeah. She's
the nurse. She's not the housekeeper.
She's not the help.
It's so fucking good. It's such a little, and like I said, as soon as I saw him doing that, I started laughing, like chuckling to myself. And then she takes the plate just because, of course. And oh my god, I was laughing. I was like, I didn't hear anybody else laughing in the theater, but fucking killed me. It was so good. I love that they included a Nazi kid, the alt-right asshole kid. Yeah. It was really funny. I
like that they included him, but did not give him actual screen time.
He's just a punching bag. He's in the bathroom masturbating like an asshole or whatever. Like it's, he gets exactly the amount of screen time and respect that his character deserves in this movie, and I love that about it. It was so much fun. I really liked. So Meg is an interesting character in this film. She's the daughter of Toni Collette, and she's one of the first family member that we see.
I think so.
Roughly. Other than like the dead body of Harlan, because Marta shows up to the house,
and she's the first one,
and
she
comes out, and the cops ask Marta if she's the help or with the help, and Meg like chastises them, but like she's his nurse or whatever, and like calls them assholes or whatever, and she's like the stereotypical like lefty college
she's
student.
Like a young college. She's in college. She's a lefty liberal.
Yeah, like Chris Evans gives her shit about getting an SJW degree, and like which is when I knew he was bad news. As soon as he said that, I was like, this guy's fucking bad news. Because it didn't seem like an in fun jest. Like it's felt like this guy's an asshole. And she snips back and forth with the alt-right, like she dumps shit on the alt-right kid and stuff. But ultimately she ends up
she sells Marta out.
She sells Marta out because she finds out that basically Harlan was paying for her college and her mom can't afford it, and she didn't realize that She thought her mom was paying for her college. She had no idea. She realizes that now she's not going to be able to finish school or whatever. And so she's like worried about that. And she kind of selfishly sells Marta out to her family because she needs money to finish school. And she's selfish in that regard. But what I really love about the film is that there's a lot of nuance to that, in the sense that you can tell she feels bad about it. And when Marta shows up at the end of the film to the house, Meg apologizes to her and seems genuine. And Marta seems to genuinely accept her apology and like forgive her. Like they embrace, and it seems genuine. Like it doesn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like it doesn't feel patronizing
feel,
or like weird. And I thought that it was a really good point on the fact that like, but even though she does apologize and Marta seems to acknowledge that apology, at the end of the film, she's still down with the family. Looking up at Marta, being part of the problem. She's still part of the problem that is part of the the white establishment disenfranchising these people. She's still part of the system that shits on these people. But it leaves you at a place where you feel like, because of their apology and the way they kind of talk to each other, it feels like maybe she can grow or something.
No, I agree. I think Meg's big flaw is that, like, at the end of the day, she was still just looking out for herself.
Yeah.
And you can, like, kind of contrast that with Marta, where, like, when Marta finds Fran, the housekeeper, and she's dying, and Marta calls 911, even though that means she's gonna get caught.
Getting caught,
she's, and the jig is up. But she still does that, whereas Meg is essentially, she's selfish. She's still just looking out for herself. She wants to finish school. She wants that paid for. She wants all this stuff. But I agree with you. I felt like it was implied that she can maybe grow out of that, at least to some extent. However much any of us can grow out of the systemic
environment that we grew up in. But the same thing is, I think the movie also looks at it and goes, and I think a movie does a good job in this in general, but it looks at her and goes, like, what other of course she's looking out for herself. Look at the situation she grew up in and the people she grew up around. She doesn't want to be like them. She wants to escape that, and she wants to become, part of the solution as opposed to the problem. So she's trying to do that in the way she knows how, and that, to her, that's going to school and getting an education and doing whatever she wants to do. We don't ever know for sure, but so like you can kind of sympathize with that in that regard, because like of course she
of course, to her mind, that's the best course of action, is to continue going to school and she, look at all the influences on her life. They're all assholes. Like, they're all terrible people. The fact that she's not a completely terrible person like Chris Evans or the Nazi is like kudos a little bit already. Like, so like, it was really, like I said, I love the nuance that you can read into that the movie handles. It's just super, super impressive. And finally, before we wrap this up, the last line between Marta and Benoit. Benoit is Daniel Craig's character, the private investigator, Benoit Blanc. And it's after Marta knows she's getting all the money, everything's kind of settled, and it's like their last little discussion together. And Marta asks him, I should try to help them, right? Speaking of the family. And Benoit responds, I have my opinion, but I know you'll do what you think is right. I can't remotely do. I'm American and I can't do a Southern accent as good as Mr. Britt Daniel Craig. I have my opinion, but I know you'll do what you think is right, or something along those lines. And I love that, because in that moment, like, absolutely Daniel Craig would tell him, like, take a long walk off a short pier. Like, that's his opinion of them. I also love that about his character. I love that his character is he's maybe the like least problematic white savior that has ever existed, because he's not a white savior. Like, he listens to her. It feels very much, and I was hoping this is where it was going, and it was where it went, like that he would know what was going on and be on her side and be her ally. He kind of seems to me
to kind of embody like what allyship should be in a situation. You know what I mean? Maybe. I don't know. It's just kind of what it feels like watching it. Maybe 10 years from now, it'll feel like, maybe not. But I felt like maybe this is kind of feels like what allyship should be. He listens to her. He brings her in to get her input because he realizes she's smart and you know, blah, blah, blah. It felt really like a very, back and forth relationship that was really like had a lot of respect on both sides and that sort of thing. But I love that he's like, fuck them. Like they're worst. But Marta's a good person and like she's probably gonna try to help them, or at least Meg. Like 100% she's gonna try to help Meg because screw the rest of them. But Meg's not 100%. Meg's not a lost cause.
Might be salvageable.
I think Meg's salvageable. I think Meg's like already like kind of, you know, on the right path, but just like needs some help. And I thought, I just loved that last line. Again, I love the subtlety of it. I just the nuance. It's a great film. It's a really, really great film. So good. Anything else you want to mention, Katie?
No, I think that about wraps it up.
I think that does about wrap it up. So yeah, go see Knives Out. Well, if you made it this far, you hopefully have seen it already. Thank you once again to all of our patrons for supporting us. We really, really appreciate it. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. If you're listening to this on or around Thanksgiving, go see Knives Out and avoid your asshole family. Any parting thoughts, Katie, about the holiday or our patrons or anything?
Thank you to our patrons again. We love you guys. We appreciate you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Perfect.
Don't put up with family members who don't respect you.
Don't do it.
Just
leave. Just walk away. Or tell them to go fucking eat an asshole.
Eat shit.
Or whatever feels right in your situation. We don't know your personal situation. In some situations, you might have to sit and bear it.
But maybe that could be the one time it's okay to channel Chris Evans' character when he just sits and tells all of his family members, eat shit, eat shit, eat shit, eat shit.
You gave me another thing to talk about. I do love that as much as like Chris Evans is the villain of this story, but at the same time he has his hero moments, and I love that. I love that eat shit moment. It's so great because they do deserve to eat shit, but so does he. Like they all deserve to eat shit. Like it's fantastic. I love it so much. But yes, maybe have your Chris Evans moment. Do what Chris Evans would do, like in real life. Like Chris Evans is a truly fantastic person, seemingly.
Seems like it.
Seems like it. He seems like a true. He is America's
He seems like
ass.
a good guy.
Seems like a good nugget.
Yeah. A good egg.
Good egg. Anyways, guys, gals, non-binary, and everybody else.
Keep reading books.
Keep watching movies, and keep being awesome. And happy Thanksgiving.